So in this video, we're going to go for this effect, which again kind of goes for that True Detective aesthetic of using silhouettes to combine and composite different elements, such as the outline of our foreground subject here. We've got the person standing within her, and then we've got her against a kind of a surreal looking landscape. There's lots of different combinations of things that I'm going to walk through here, but the actual main part of the effect is using something called Silhouette Luma, and that is the main I suppose learning for this lesson. Right, so what I'll do is I'll start from scratch, and we'll start just with the basic image. And what we're going to need for this to work is we're going to need a clean inside outside matte image. In this case, we're going to have full or very close to full black on the inside, and then the full white remaining on the outside. So if we want to do what's often called a high contrast matte, then we're going to need to get our curves, and we're going to want to take all of the darkest parts of our image. That would be from roughly here, the black point, up to around here, and we want to basically turn them all black. Okay, so see how whereas we had all of these grays, we're just leaving a trail of kind of flatline black behind us. And we go as far as we can before it starts to kind of distort the outline and start to chip into that white. So we'll leave it about here, and that should give us what we need. Now, next thing we can do, it's not entirely necessary, but it's nice to see our matte as pure black on white. So we're going to go back into color correction, going to get the hue saturation, and just give that a saturation of 0. And you can see now we've got a grayscale image of black against white. And we still have lots of detail in our edges, because digital video is encoded to give you more detail in the tones than it is in the color. So it's a nice way to get a nice accurate outline. Now, so what we do next is we get our image of the person standing. So I'm going to just put in the word standing here, because I can't remember what folder I have it in, and there we have it there. So we'll pop that in there, and we will just bring down the transparency just for a moment, just so I can see both her and our image. Line it up. We don't need to worry about this because it's not going to be visible. So change that back to 100, and I'm going to pop it in the layer directly below her. And all we need to do to change this from a black and white matte image is to choose in our modes with her at the top. Oops. We want to change that to Silhouette Luma. Now, I may have said Silhouette Alpha earlier. Apologies for that. It's a different effect. So Silhouette Luma gives us what we need in terms of cutting out the background image with the foreground. So remember, it's just black and white, and it's just looking for black, filling it in where it sees white. It just gives us complete transparency, or an alpha value of 0. Right, so if we want to put this against any kind of a background, and we're using the countryside drone image, if we were to just drag that down and try and put it in the background underneath her, we wouldn't actually see anything, because her she is matting all of the images all the way down throughout, down to the very bottom. So if we want to be able to use her and put a background behind her, we need to isolate her in terms of the matte image and what the matte image is matting out, and we need to do a layer, pre-compose, and we can just call this Jane plus standing or something like that. Click OK, and now you'll see that we get our background, because the background is no longer being affected by Jane's Silhouette Luma. So now we have the countryside. We can start playing around with that. So all I did to get this to kind of match the matted image was to take the horizon line and try and match those up. And following on from that, I applied effect, channel, invert. Following that, I added a solid, gave it a kind of a reddish magenta, Now drag that down so it's directly below the countryside. We change its blend mode to multiply. So what multiply does is it darkens, but it multiplies in the red magenta color into the RGB channels, and now we have a kind of an inverted and also colorized, but not colorized in the hue and saturation sense, which is a little bit flat. We get to keep a colorized image, but we still get to keep some of the variations in blues and blacks and various other colors. So following on from this, we could do a vibrance maybe on the oh, sorry, no, I'm in the wrong one. We want to get into the pre-comp here, and we can do an effect of a vibrance change on the person standing to take down the saturation a little bit, so it's a little bit moodier, but we keep some of the colors in there nonetheless. Okay, so there is the effect in its totality, but the important things to remember is that we have a pre-comp here of a matted image, and that needs to be kept separate from everything else because the blend mode would affect everything all the way down to the bottom if we had left them all out in the one place.